Welcome to Bigfoot Society. If you have Bigfoot activity to report from the same areas discussed in this episode, please reach out to me directly after this episode. And if you'd like to be on the podcast to discuss a personal Bigfoot encounter, please reach out to me directly at bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Do you wish there was more Bigfoot Society to listen to every week? Well, there is now. If you become a supporting member over at Patreon, you get a special members-only episode every single week on Wednesdays, and sometimes even more episodes. Head on over to patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. And now let's get on with the show. All right, Bigfoot Society, we got the privilege of talking to Norma and Bob. They are Bigfoot researchers based out of Connecticut now, but they've also done things in Massachusetts in the past as well. But how are we doing today, Norma?
Great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I had the privilege of already talking to you a little bit. We had a pre-interview chat earlier today, and that was awesome. We talked about you've been involved with a lot of things over the years. Pretty cool stuff being involved with finding Bigfoot over the years, and definitely is great to start to know your background and almost vet you in a little bit of a way. But what else do we have going on tonight for you, Norma?
Planning on going out tomorrow night and doing some research with another friend and my husband. We haven't been out. We're going actually to the Mass area where we've researched for quite a few years, since 2006. We had a little expedition there in 2007, and it's been quite a active area, to say the least. And it's been pretty interesting and a lot of fun, but also sometimes it's a little unnerving when you're out in the pitch dark, because we're out there in the pitch dark. And I know it's cliche to say you can't see your hand in front of your face, but honestly, that's the truth. It's so dark. Sometimes we're just sitting in the dark, listening to everything that's around us and hoping that one of these creatures will approach us, as opposed to us trying to draw it in. You know what I mean? So we're out there doing our thing, having fun, learning a lot, having other people that are new, come out with us. We had this, he's a really great friend now, but I don't even know who introduced us, but he wanted to go out so bad. And we went out to this Massachusetts research area, and we built a fire. I was with another one of my friends who has gone out with me many times, but he pretty much stayed by the fire. He wouldn't leave the fire. I'm like, come on over here. We heard something, so we moved away. We walked away from the fire, and he said, I'll stay here. Just my friend and I were standing there, and what we were hearing was whistles, these very light whistles. And I thought it was my friend. And what we listen with is an H2 recorder. So I always have it on, and I'm always recording. And when we go out, usually I have 4 H2s so that everybody can have one. And I also have amplifiers that connect to the H2s. So everybody that comes out with us is hearing the same thing that we're hearing. However, I only had one at the time, and I had it on and I was listening, and I thought my friend was doing it. I said, are you doing that? And he said, no, I'm right. And I should have known, because if you've ever listened through an H2, or I think they have new ones now, mine are, I love the H2s, but I think they have HN4 or HN2 or something like that. But you can't not hear everything that's going on. You move or you brush your jacket, and it's so loud. So I should have known that he wasn't doing it, but I had to ask him anyway, because I don't want him messing with me. And he said, no, I'm not doing it. And our friend was sitting at the fire, and he was hearing it too. So we ended up listening for a little bit, and it was so subtle. And it was so close. And I think that's why it was so subtle. I don't think it was meant to be loud. And when we heard it, after we heard it, I turned the H2 on, and I was standing there for a little while with it recording and nothing was happening. So I shut the recorder off. I shut the recording part off and was just listening, and it would happen again. And I was like, when you figure. So I'd put it on again and nothing would happen. And then as soon as I shut it off, something would happen. So that went on for a little bit. And then we went back to the fire with this other guy. Since then, though, this friend of ours has been with us for quite some time, and he is a trip, and we have such a good time. When you go out and research, sometimes, and the majority of the time, there is nothing going on. You are just sitting there in the dark, waiting for something to hopefully happen, and nothing does. So it's probably, I don't know, 80% of the time, nothing happens. So when you're sitting there, when my husband and I are out there, we pretty much know how the two of us work. We know how we'll converse with each other and we'll say, oh, that was an interesting sound or something like that. But when there's other people with you and they don't know what those sounds are, especially if they're new and they hear these things, they're like, oh, what is that? So they step all over the audio. Sometimes you just have to stop and say, okay, let's just listen and wait and see what happens. And we're all quiet. Or if we're talking, this friend of ours, his name is Fred, and he is a real cut up. And we are in there. Sometimes we are laughing and joking. And the amazing thing is that the H2s, even though there's other noises, especially when because we can hear each other really well, but when there's other noises, they kind of stick out. I don't know how that works. I don't know how it happens, but it does. And one of us will hear something and we'll go, shh, I just heard something. So we'll all all of a sudden, we'll all just be quiet and listen. And either something will happen or maybe it's another animal out there that we're not, that we say, oh, okay, that was a coyote, or maybe a little chipmunk or something running around squeaking. So it's pretty interesting with him because he's so funny and he gets us all going and we'll be hysterical. One time we were doing that. We were in the car and he was sitting in the seat behind us. And this is what we do. I mentioned to you before that we have done in our research so many methods of research. We've gone out there and we have walked trails in the middle of the night until dawn. We have camped out. We have sat in the dark. We have done so many things. We've knocked on trees. We've made calls. We've done all kinds of things throughout our research. And several years ago, we were going out during, I think it was probably in November when it was starting to get cold. And my husband and I decided that we're going to try something different. We're going to just drive out to our research area. We're not going to start a fire. And we've done plenty of that. We've been in 5-degree weather researching. The Squatch are probably laughing at us saying, what are these people crazy out in 5-degree weather when they're hold down somewhere nice and warm? They're not coming out. We actually, with another friend of ours, my husband and I, and another friend of ours, we went out and we did it was, again, we don't go out until late at night. We don't go out until probably 11 or 12. Okay. Steve calls it Squatch 30. So it's 12:30. So we go out there or we went out there. He had a little pop-up tent. He brought his grill because sometimes you want to get those smells out there. Maybe that'll draw something in. And built a fire, freezing cold out there. And it started to, it's like a light mist, like an icing mist was starting to come out or happen. And we heard something and then we just, I don't know what that was. Maybe it was, I don't know. I don't know what we thought it was. But when we had driven in, there was snow on the ground and there were no other tracks going into this area. So we know that there was nothing else. And there were no other tracks, like no animal tracks or anything like that. So we're sitting there and not 15 feet away from us we decided to get up and walk up the road. And as we're walking up the road, we're going back to where our tire tracks were, and we're following our tire tracks, and we saw moose tracks in the snow. Whatever we briefly heard, there was a moose, and he was a pretty good prince, this pretty good sized prince. It came through the woods, and of course, like I said, it was that icing was happening, and we could hear it on the little awning that he brought, the little pop-up tent or awning that he brought. And so that might have had something to do with it. When other sounds are happening, you can't hear, what you really need to hear. We heard something briefly, and then that was it. But the moose came through one side of the road and through the woods, crossed the road, and went through the other side of the woods. And we're like, wow, that was so close. And we didn't even hear it, which made us think about, okay, had that been a Bigfoot, would we have heard that?
Right.
We probably wouldn't have. So it's interesting, these different scenarios that you go through. So again, we've been through them all. We've done all kinds of methods of, research. And the one that we tend to stick with, and we do still get out and walk at night and do things like that. I'll tell you one story that was funny, but we decided to just go and sit in our car, put our H2s out the window, and just listen. It was freezing out anyway, so we'll stay in the car. Hopefully we'll keep a little warm. We don't turn on the car. We just, dress warm, bring some blankets. Our dog always goes with us. She's been squatching since she was 8 weeks old, so she's used to it. And we just all bundle up and we listen, and so many things. It seems, like I said, we're not bothering them. We're not out there knocking on trees. And I'm not saying that's not a good thing. I'm not saying there's all kinds of things that we do as researchers, and that's fine. Like I said, we've done it. And on occasion, we'll still go out there and maybe knock on a tree when we're bored. Like nothing's happening. Let's knock on a tree and see what happens. Or somebody else that comes with us will say, okay, I'm going to get out and I'm going to do a yell, or I'm going to do something, see what happens, see if we bring anything in. So we're okay with that. But what we generally do is go out and we're real quiet, hoping something will come to us. And plenty has come to us doing that method. So one night in the Massachusetts research area, we were all sitting there, and our friend Fred, he's the he's such a great guy. And we were having a good time. Nothing was going on. Nothing. And they make up Bigfoot songs to regular songs. It's really hysterical. While they're doing that, and some of the time I'll jump in and do another sound, but a song or something. But I'm listening. I'm listening to what's going on. I'm listening to them, but I'm really tuning into, as those two, it's like a comedy show. So those two are going at it, and I'm laughing along with them, but I'm listening too. And if I hear anything, I'll say, oh, I just heard something. And everybody would just go silent. So it's almost like that radio silent. Everybody would go silent and would just be listening. So one night we're sitting there. We had been there quite some time. I think it was I would have to say about 4 a.m, and it was cooler out. All of a sudden, they're doing their comedy show there, and I'm listening, and all of a sudden I hear something off in the distance. And Bob actually heard it at the same time. And we're like, okay, this thing, it sounded like a freight train was coming through the woods. This thing was looking through the woods. It was running so fast. You could hear branches breaking, and and it's coming toward us. And all you can hear is this thing running. And I don't know what made it stop, but all of a sudden, and it's getting, like I said, it's getting closer to us. And all of a sudden, it just stopped on a dime. It just stopped running. And we're like, what the heck is that? And we're talking, saying, what could that be that would just stop like that? And then it just picked up and started running again, just as fast as it was running the first time. And then it stopped again. And this time it's closer to us. Fred's sitting in the back seat. We have a Dodge Caravan. So he's sitting in the far, we took the middle seats out. So he's in the back. And he's, what is that? So when it stopped the second time, then it started walking. And it was, like I said, it was pretty close to us. And the H2 is omnidirectional.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint where it is. It's not like a parabolic where you can turn it and really zero in on the noises. But when you use it a lot, you tend to be able to at least gauge where it might be coming from. At least my husband and I usually can do that on occasion. When we're hearing something that's really close, we have to really zone in and try to figure out where is this coming from. So this thing was close to us and it was walking, and it must have been staying just inside the dark wood line because we lit ourselves up. And when I say light, sometimes I'll tell my husband, light us up. He's usually in the driver's seat. And what that means is turn on the headlights and see if we can catch whatever it is that's out there making that noise. So that's exactly what we did. We lit it up. This thing didn't stop. It kept walking and it was getting closer to us. So we're trying to figure out where it is. Fred is, he's like, this thing, it's really close. I said, I know. And so we're listening, and at one point you could hear, and it wasn't 4 feet. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a deer. It wasn't anything that was quad. It was something that was bipedal. So he's freaking out a little bit, and he said, and so I said, okay, so maybe if we start, we can only see so far, and we have a high powered light. So I usually take that out and I'll be scanning. And I did that, but I couldn't see anything. I hate when that happens, but I couldn't see anything. And so I said, okay, if we turn the car on, maybe if we put the reverse, we have a dash cam.
Sure.
And I said, maybe a backup cam. So maybe if we put it in reverse, maybe we'll see something, behind us. We tried that. Couldn't see anything. Again, it's so dark out there. No ambient light, no any kind of light pollution. So it's very dark. And once you get to when your lights get to a certain point, you can't see beyond. Then we put it in park and we're just listening to this thing. This thing isn't going away. It's walking toward us. Now, how far was it? I don't know. But when you're listening to the H2, you can hear quite a distance with that H2. And so I don't know how close it was, but I can guesstimate because of the sound and how clear it is. And it was getting close. So Fred, at one point, Bob's like, what should we do? I said, let's just wait and see what happens. The thing's still coming. And Fred is in the back and he's, I don't know what you guys are going to do, but you better do something because it's right behind us. And that's what it sounded like. It sounded like it's right behind us. But then again, your brain, you're in that fight or flight, right? Your brain is telling you something is behind you, run, right, basically. And that's the kind of thing that was going on with him. It's right behind us. We don't know if it was right behind us. It could have been on either side of us. It could have been behind us. Could have been diagonally. I don't know. But it was pretty close. And he was like, better do something. It's right behind us. We decided to, at that point, to probably leave because we didn't know how close it would get to us. But man, I'll tell you, that was an incredible experience because I never heard anything run that fast and stop just like that. That was crazy.
Did you have your dog with you at that time? How did your dog react?
She is so used to all the noises that we hear out there. And there have been a few times when definitely she has perked up. She will look, and she can't see, obviously, when it's that dark. But you can see her head turning in a direction where she hears it. So another night, in the same exact location, Bob and I went out and she was with us. And I'm usually the tech person, so I get everything ready. I get the H2s ready. We have a night vision that I keep nearby that records. There's no sound, but it records and it takes still photos. So I'm the techie. I'm the one that gets it all together, puts things together, get them all started, hand them out to everybody. And that's when we get there, that's what we do. And also when we first get there, we usually do a perimeter check just to see if there's any other animals out there, coyotes or bear or anything, or deer or anything like that out there. When I get it together, I'll give him his H2 and I have mine. So we just got there and Bob had the window open a short amount of time. He had it about halfway down, and Jenna, our dog, she had that low growl. She wasn't barking, but she had that low growl that she was looking directly out the driver's side into the woods. And she was not happy. She heard something. And Bob said, I hear something. I said, okay, I got to get things together. I said, I'm not together yet. I don't have everything on and ready. And he goes, I hear something and it's really close. I said, roll up the window, I don't know what to tell you. So I just got everything ready and then I handed it to him and he put it out there. And sure enough, we could hear something very close to us. We heard it very close to us on the driver's side. And then we heard something further off, but it was a little ways. But this, whatever it was that was very close to us, sounded agitated. It was moving, right in one area, if you know what I mean. It was, I don't know if it was like moving back and forth or pacing or whatever, but it was just right there. And I'm like, Bob's like, wow, what is going on? And we hadn't been there, I think the entire time we were there, I was setting up. It was probably 5 minutes. I think the entire time was maybe 7 minutes. When we got the H2 on, put them out the windows, heard the scuffling, and then all of a sudden there was this huge whack on a tree. This thing was like, it had some force, like a Louisville just hit the side of a tree and it just popped. It was so loud. And Bob was like, holy crap. It was right there. And then shortly after, we heard another knock a distance away. And then after that one, and I'm saying a distance away, it was probably about 50 yards, maybe 40 yards. And then another one in between the two. After that loud tree knock, and it was a tree whack. It was so loud. Incidentally, we have that recorded on the H2. Everything was recorded on the H2. One of the H2s is usually recording, and it's usually mine because they don't know how to work them. So I record on mine, but you can still set it up so you can listen without recording. So mine is recording, theirs are just on listen. But man, he was like, they are not happy. I think we came in on maybe a hunt or something. Maybe they were hunting and we interrupted whatever it was they were doing. But it did not want us there. And that has to be probably in how many years have we been? Probably, I think we're 16 years in research. I've never heard another one like that since. It was so loud. It's almost like when lightning hits a tree. It's that really loud pop. So that was pretty interesting. So we weren't there very long. We actually thought it probably would be best to leave the area since they were right there. So that was another one. But our dog, she has perked up a couple times, and we watch her. Usually we'll watch her and we'll listen. If she does that low growl, we know something is up. But most of the time, she's pretty calm. And I know a lot of people say Bigfoot don't like dogs or dogs cower and all of that stuff. I think it's because she was so young when we started this that maybe she's just used to it. We used to put her in a backpack and take her hiking with us.
Oh, wow.
So she's hiking as far as like research Bigfoot in the woods at night hiking. We don't keep her on a leash because we don't want anything to happen to her.
Sure.
If anything were confront us or something, we don't want anything to happen to her. So we usually put her in a backpack, her little head sticking out. If it's warm out, it's a mesh backpack, so she's pretty cool. But I think she's just so used to it that it doesn't affect her, it doesn't bother her. Again, there are times when she does. There are times when she's perking up and she's looking straight out the window. She looks like a pointer, and she's just a little Jack Russell. And it's pretty interesting when she does that, because then we're on high alert. After that, we call it the runner. After the runner, we were pretty alert, wondering if it was probably just a one-time something. Maybe it was going through the area. I don't know what it was doing, but it was crazy. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that, where it just stops on a dime?
I have heard
running that fast.
Yeah, I've heard different accounts where mentioned as a bluff charge, where they'll run quickly towards a person through the woods, just taking down all sorts of trees, and then stop because they're trying to get the person. What most people say, they're trying to get the person to run away, right? To get out of their area. Now we don't know that for sure because we can't talk to them, but that's, if you look at ape behavior, potentially similar. But Norma, there's a question that a lot of listeners have in their head right now. So I'm going to ask it. And so we've established we're in Massachusetts, and I'm excited for this interview because I spent the first 20 so years of my life out there in Western Massachusetts in a little town called Northfield. Beautiful town.
Yep.
There's a lot
we weren't far from Northfield.
Yeah, exactly. We chatted about that. The thing about Massachusetts, there's a lot of different regions, right? You've got the Berkshires, you've got October Mountain out there, you've got the Bridgewater Triangle, you've got Franklin County, you've got Boston, you've got Cape Cod, all over the place. And is there any context you might be able to give about maybe what kind of region we're talking about when we talk about this area that you're focusing in? And I don't want to push anything, but.
No, this is in Worcester County. So it's out in the Worcester County area. So Franklin County is where we were from. And we went, the reason we got to this location, this specific location, was because a friend of ours, he found out that we did Bigfoot research. And he said, I have a friend who might have seen a Bigfoot outside of her window. I said, really? Okay, will she talk to us? And he said, I'll ask her if she'll talk to you about it. And I said, okay. That'd be great. So I was able to talk to her. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Is that Jenna?
No, that's our other dog.
Gotcha.
She's we live out in the woods, so there's all kinds of things out here.
Yeah.
I lost my train of thought. Oh, so I was able to call her and talk to her about it. And while I was talking to her about it, when I interview people, and I've interviewed a few people over the years, and I don't lead them. I don't want to ask leading questions. I don't want to say, okay, was the hair that you saw brown? You don't want to say that, because they'll be, yeah, I think it was brown. You just ask them what they saw. And that's exactly what I did with her. I said, so what happened that night? Tell me what happened. And so she told me that she was on her bed watching TV. It was about 2:00 in the morning. She was just like, it was a summer night. And she was just, like I said, watching TV. Her curtains on her window were parted, and it was there was a space in between one curtain from the other, probably about 8 or 12-inch space between the two curtains that you could see outside. And it was, like I said, 2:00 in the morning, so it's pretty dark out there. And just happened to see something out of the corner of her eye. So she looked over, and she didn't see anything. So, okay, whatever. Then she decided to get up and part the curtains and look outside. And she obviously didn't see anything because it was dark. And the distance, because we went over there and actually looked at the house and looked at the window, the distance from the ground to the window, or it's a double hung window. So there's a top and bottom, right? And the bottom part of the window from the ground was over 8 feet tall, 8 feet high. And there was nothing there. There was nothing on the side of her house to climb on, to lift yourself up on, it was just total, bare over there, nothing, no trees, nothing. It's just totally empty. So she got up, she parted the curtains a little bit more. She looked out. I don't know what she thought she was going to see, but, she just thought, okay, I'll just look out there. Didn't see anything, came back. And again, it was pitch dark. I think unless somebody had a light on their house, there wouldn't be any light around there. And so she goes back on her bed and she starts watching TV again. And now this time her curtains are parted even more. And she saw something again in the corner of her eye, and she looked over and she saw this face in the window.
Wow.
About halfway up between, the sill and where the second half of the window meets. And she saw this face in her window and she was freaking out. She called our friend, the guy that we knew, and she was friends with him as well. And she said, somebody's looking through my window. You got to come over here. She was freaking out. So he went over there, and he has a license to carry. So he took something over with him, and he was looking around the house in the backyard, just seeing if there was anybody there that was looking through her window, because he had no idea what it was. She didn't really tell him. She just said she saw somebody in her window. And that's what she was telling me. And then I said, okay, so what did you see? She said she was trying to explain to me. It was really big. The head was really big. Face was dark. She said the hair was dark, but she said, but I'm not saying that it was a Bigfoot. And I was like, right. Okay, just tell me what you saw. And she said, I looked over there and I saw this face in the window looking in, and it freaked me out. And I don't know what it was. I called Ray over. He looked around, and she said, but I'm not saying that it was a Bigfoot. So she kept saying that to me, and I chuckled and I was like, all right, that's okay. So basically she explained, or she was describing a Bigfoot basically, but she kept saying, I'm not saying it's a Bigfoot. But she wouldn't sleep in her room for 6 months after that. And then, and I didn't tell you this before, but I think that was, oh gosh, I can't remember the time frame. Her sons and a friend of their sons was standing out in the driveway. I think they were smoking a cigarette or something. And this was probably around 5, 6 in the evening. Now, the research area that we started to research in was across the street from them. They live in a very rural area. There's a few houses on that road, but across the street from them is a state forest. So that's where the proximity is. And that's her sighting and what happened to her, the peeping Bigfoot. That's what got us to this area. So getting back to the sons in the driveway.
Gotcha.
And their friend, they were standing there just, shooting the breeze and having a cigarette or something, or whatever that they were doing. And all of a sudden they saw a Bigfoot step over I think it was a guardrail, or onto the road, cross the road toward them. So it went from the state forest over to their side of the road, crossed that road and into the woods. And they couldn't believe what they were seeing. And they quickly went into because it was starting to get dark. They went into the house and got flashlights and went into the area where they saw the Bigfoot go in. And they obviously couldn't find it, but they tried to go in and see if they could find it after that, and they couldn't.
Wow.
But this is the same house where she saw that peeping Tom, if you will, in her window. So that was pretty interesting. So that's what got us into this research area. We decided to just go there and walk the area during the day, get a lay of the land. We went up to, they do have way up on the mountain, whatever you want to call it, way deeper into the state forest. They do have primitive camping. So, and it's really primitive. It's not, this isn't glamping. This is, you don't have water, you don't have electricity, you don't have any of that stuff. It's just, you're out there on your own tent, whatever, hammock, whatever you're going to do. So this area, and they do have a section where it's like this kind of I want to say, for lack of a better description, it's like a meadow, right? There's just this really big area where you can fit like a group. If you want a group of your friends or whatever, if you all want to tent together, you can go in this little meadow, and in the middle, it has a fire pit. But most of the time, they don't care where you're camping. If you want to go in that section, you can go in that section. But it can be for maybe, I don't know, 5 or 6 tents, let's say. So we've been there plenty of times. And off of that, there are trails that you can take deeper into the woods. And we've gone on those trails, and they're single file. So they're almost like game trails, but they're basically for if you want to just walk out there and see where things are. And we've gone in a few directions, just exploring. We went in this one area that we had to go over a couple beaver dams. That was pretty sketchy.
Yeah, that would be.
You don't know when you're going to fall through.
That's right. Yeah.
So we've done that during the wintertime.
Oh, man.
And we've also done that during the summer. In this particular area where we've gone over those beaver dams, it opens up, and we found these little trails that we could explore. One of the trails, and I think I told you, there was some boulders out there. These boulders were probably dropped in the Ice Age. I don't know. But they're situated, they're pretty big, and they're situated where it's almost, I think there was pretty sure there were 3 of them, but they were separated. So you could actually walk through them to the other side, and it's not very long, but you can walk through all 3 of the boulders. And these boulders were, gosh, I don't know, maybe 20 feet high. They were pretty up there. And then there were spaces between the 3 of them, but not huge spaces, maybe 6-8 feet between the 3 of them. So we've gone through there. One of the times that we went through there, just before you go into the 3 boulders, there was a footprint. And this was, I think it was February. It was February. I don't remember the year, but this is in our couple years into our research. We were having weather where it would warm up, and then it would get cold, and then it would warm up, and then it would get cold. So apparently one of these times there was a footprint had stepped on it when it was warm. The ground was warm, a little mushy, and then it was hard. So when we saw it, the ground was hard. I have pictures that we took. I could probably send them to you of this footprint. We had a tape measure with us and all of that stuff.
How long was the track when you measured it?
The footprint was, I believe, 13 or 14 inches. And it looked juvenile-ish. You know how if you look at a juvenile print, their prints are a little more narrow than a full-grown Bigfoot. Maybe I'm off the wall, but that's what I've known. But it looked like it was a little more narrow, but I think the width of it was about 3 or 4 inches. But it was the way it was crossing in that one little space, and it was very narrow. The rest of it was pine needles and leaves and stuff. So it was a very narrow path, and it just happened to cross that particular place when the ground was softer and left a track. And it was heading toward crossing toward the boulders. It was really close to the boulders. So we thought that was pretty interesting. Who's going to be out here in February?
Yeah.
Barefoot. And it was clearly toes. It was clearly a footprint. So that was pretty interesting. But these boulders, which is really cool, we had gone back to those boulders several times. And one of the times on the latter end of that, going back there, we had gone into the boulders. And when we went in there, we noticed that there, in those spaces that I told you were in between those three boulders,
Mm-hmm.
there was twigs and branches and just a whole thing. It was almost like it was blocking those spaces between the three boulders. Just bramble. It was just sticks and twigs just thrown into this makeshift blockage or something. And we thought that was pretty interesting. On both sides of in between those three boulders, it still had the path going between them. You could still go between them, but the spaces between the three were blocked. And we're like, wow, what's this all about? Because we had never seen that prior to going there. And they were always open and easy to get through. But this one time, it was just blocked, like almost like a herding situation. You know what I'm saying? You want to herd something in there and it can't get out. It only has one way in, one way out. And then to be up on those boulders, I guess you try to think, you're trying to rationalize, what could this be? What could this mean? And knowing that there are Bigfoot in the area, was it something that they were doing? Were they perched up on one of these boulders? Some other Bigfoot was herding maybe a deer in there or something. I don't know. It was pretty interesting. And I know they must do things like that. Animals do that all the time, trying to ambush deer or something like that. So that was pretty interesting. Another thing that happened in that area, on the way to the boulders, I think we were coming back, and I looked across to the other section of the woods, and this was the weirdest thing. The trees, there were like this line of trees. Obviously, it's coincidental that these trees were lining up. Again, you can just look down and see like several trees that were in a row. Up in the crooks of the branches were these other long branches, and it was high. It was high up. It had to have been about maybe 30 feet up. In the crooks of the branches, there were these horizontal tree branches that were just in there across. And then I looked across the other trees, and it was the same thing. There was this long tree branch that was just in the crook of the tree going. There were several. And I was like, what? How did those get up there? Sure, I guess people could do that, but what would the purpose of that be, and out in the middle of nowhere?
Right. That kind of stuff, that boggles my mind, because it's like, it doesn't make any sense for someone to do that in a tree that's so high up, and just, it doesn't make sense. And what's the logic behind that? It's very weird stuff when you see stuff like that.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And it was in that same area, but it wasn't close to the boulders, but it was in that vicinity of the boulders. And I thought, wow, and I'm not talking 10-foot branches. These were like little saplings.
Wow.
That were placed up there in this vertical pattern. And I'm like, holy cow, what the heck is that? You know, it was boggling. It was wow.
Yeah, listeners need to realize that the county you're talking about, Worcester County, has some very wild area in it. I grew up in Northfield, but my father and we used to go hiking in the Quabbin Reservoir area all the time. You are out in the sticks when you go into the Quabbin. It's like, you don't mess around, because that's a massive amount of wooded area and many different forests around there. You've got to be prepared. Yeah. So I can see how you're experiencing these types of things there.
Yeah, it was really interesting. And we've had so many experiences there. when we went out, like I said at the beginning of our research, we would do the whoops and calls and things like that. None of the guys would. I was the only female. None of the guys would do that. It was like I'm not doing that. That's just too embarrassing for me. I can't do that. So I would be the one doing it, you know? I'd be letting out these calls or whoops or something like whatever. And it was amazing because some of the time the whoops that came back sounded like me.
So one of the guys said, return whoops.
Yeah, really? We had return whoops.
Wow.
And on several occasions, the whoop sounded exactly like my whoop that went out. And one of the guys said, "Did you hear that? It sounded just like you." I'm like, "Yeah, that's creepy." Exactly like that. So finally, I was able to get the guys to do at least some. I said, "Guys, I can't do this myself all the time. Come on. You guys got to do something." So my husband started doing it, and one of our other friends would try it. But it's so funny how they were. But at any rate.
Were you able to prove that the sounds coming back to you were not like an echo coming back? Were there any?
Absolutely not an echo.
Okay.
No, it didn't happen. What an echo is. It didn't come back that quickly. It wasn't like you let out that yell and then you could hear it, you know. It was not even in that realm of an echo coming back. You can't echo there. Anyway.
Gotcha. All right.
There's no echoing when you're out there. You're in the deep woods. You're bouncing. It's not like you have a cavern or an open area where you're just like, and you get it back. It's nothing like that. No, it's definitely not an echo, but it was pretty cool. But we've had several things like that happen. We've also had coyotes go off. And you hear, I'm a singer, I can hear tones and hear notes and know how that sort of thing works out. And my husband, he's also musically inclined. He plays guitar and drums. So he's got that, and he sings. So he's got that same kind of thing. People who are musically inclined will understand, I think, what I'm saying. You can hear when something's off, or you can hear different tones and things like that. So there was several occasions we will hear coyotes going off, and not every single time. So let me be clear about that. It's not every single time a coyote starts yipping that we hear anything else going on. On occasion, there would be packs of coyotes going off, and you can hear something distinctly, hear it, this long, drawn out howl or yell or something that's mixed in with the coyotes. Really creepy when you're listening to it, because you're like, whoa, that's something different. And it's powerful, and it gets to this climactic point and then comes down. So it's not like you know what I'm saying? Like a coyote would do the whole yipping, and yeah, they're pretty loud, but it's different. You can hear it.
The way you describe it it sounds like it might almost be like an Ohio owl. Is it something similar to that, or?
I guess it would be similar, but not exactly. It's a little bit different. I don't know how to explain it, but we could hear it amidst what the coyotes were doing. So it's pretty interesting. Can I say for sure that was Bigfoot? No, absolutely not. Can I say anything that we experience out there is absolutely Bigfoot? No, I can't. But I'll tell you what, there are some things out there that happen to us that are just unexplainable. You almost can't wrap your brain around it, because it's like when they see a Bigfoot, they're like, their brain just can't wrap it. What am I seeing? I'm supposed to be seeing this. I don't know. It's just so different when you're out there, and when you've been out there for so long, night after night, just hearing these things or having these things happen to you. I was telling you before, the reason we got the H2, we were on a group, and we used to go out there. I still don't know what we're thinking. there's just been times where like, we're going to die. What are we doing out here? Our car, our tent, anything could get rolled. We've talked about that before. What if they decide to just roll our van, or what are we going to do? We're not going to do anything. There's nothing we can do, but it's always there that something like that could happen. And I know there's people out there to say, oh, Bigfoot's not going to hurt you. He's just a warm, fuzzy little teddy bear. I'm sorry. I'm not on that group. I don't ever tell anybody. I don't care what it is. This is something, and again, what is Bigfoot? I don't know. I call it a creature. I call all these little creatures that are out there. I don't know what Bigfoot is. I'm not even going to go there. But it's a wild thing, just like any other wild animal. It's unpredictable. I'm not going to tell anybody that they're never going to get hurt. When I go out, when I bring people out there, I don't know what's going to happen. You have to be aware of that. We could come across a bear. I'm not going to tell them that bear is not going to do anything to you.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I can't in good conscience do that. And I've gone out and I've done talks, libraries, and I've been on podcasts and things like that. I'm not going to tell people that you're not going to get hurt. How many times have you heard stories that people have told you where they've been escorted out of the woods?
More than a few.
By a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, that we had a bluff charge. Okay. This wasn't the runner. This was a bluff charge.
Oh, okay.
We went one other time. It was just Bob and I doing our thing. We're listening. We get there, and as soon as we get there and get set up and get settled, we just start listening. And he had his H2 on one side, I had mine on the other. And again, I tell you, they're omnidirectional. But if you set them up in a certain way, you might not hear another section of the area. And I don't know how he had his set up. What I usually do with mine is going vertically so that it's, up above, and the way it's turned, it can hear, pretty much all the area. And like I said, I don't know how he had it set up, but we're sitting there listening. I hear these little, twigs, little snapping twigs on the ground, kind of a thing. If you step on something, step on a little twig and you hear it snap. I was hearing that off and on. And again, when we go out there, we don't go straight for Bigfoot. Not everything is Bigfoot. I hate to break it to whomever, but not everything is Bigfoot. We don't start off thinking, all right, we just heard that twig snap, so that must be Bigfoot. No, there's deer out there. There's little critters out there running around. There's all kinds of things, all kinds of night porcupines, raccoons, fox, all that stuff that are walking through the woods. No, we don't go straight for that's Bigfoot. When we hear these little snaps, we just, it's whatever. But you continue to listen and try to see exactly what it might be. Will you ever know? We can usually tell if it's like a raccoon or if it's a little animal scurrying around. It's the same. It's the same sound. It doesn't really change much. It's when the big snapping starts happening that you get on alert. Yeah. But so we're listening, and I was hearing it off and on and subtle. And when it first started to happen, after a little bit, I said, yeah, are you hearing that? I said to Bob, are you hearing that? And he said, hearing what? I said, I don't know. I hear these every once in a while. I hear these little twigs snap. And it could be anything, but I said, are you hearing that? He goes, no, not really. I said, all right. This was going on for a little while where I was just listening. And I said, and then a little bigger, like a bigger branch would snap on the ground. And I said, okay, did you hear that? He said, not really. Why are you not hearing this? And I said, then it must be on my side because I'm hearing something. And I don't know what it is, but I'm hearing something. So again, little while later, little time goes by and I'm still hearing it. And I said, okay, did you hear that? He goes, yeah, I did hear that. And so I said, it must be on my side because I'm hearing it a lot more than you are. So I don't know. It must be on this side of the van. So sat there a little bit longer. He started to hear the little subtle snapping. And I said, I don't know, Van. This is weird. And again, this is all in the H2. It might not be word for word, but you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden, I think prior to that, off on his, I'm just going to get Bob for a second. I think he took the dog out. When do you figure? Good timing, Bob. Thanks for that. Prior to that, I believe this was the first thing that happened. Bob, here, he's back again. Prior to the snapping, that tree broke, right?
About a half hour early. Yeah.
So what happened with that tree?
It was just a large tree went over. Trees go down in the forest all the time, so no real credence to that. But it did go over, and I made a silly comment. I just said, "That sounds angry." I said, "If anything happens here, we're out of here. Something sounds rogue tonight." It was funny that we said that, and then a half hour later,
we
had that crackling.
You said, if anything comes running toward us,
we're out of here. I did say that.
We still have the runner on our mind. And when we heard that tree come down, and it was a tree, it sounded like a dead tree, like it was pushed over. And he said, if anything comes running toward us, we're out of here. Because, like I said, he still had that on his mind. So it was probably maybe a half an hour after that was when I started hearing the snapping sounds. And when he started to hear it, we're like, okay, so what is that? What is going on? And then all of a sudden, this thing came running through the woods toward us. I said, did you hear that? He goes, oh, yeah, I hear that. And it was barreling for us. This thing was bluff charging us. And I said, light us up, Bob. Bob took the flashlight, that big beam flashlight that we have, and he threw it at me. And he said, literally threw it at me. Look out your window, he said. Yeah, scan, look out your window. And so I'm fumbling with the flashlight and trying to getting it out the window, trying to look. And I said, light us up. And when I say light us up, I think I told you, He puts on the beams and everything around us within the circumference of the light shine. We're hoping to see something. But again, it was on my side. And I knew it was on my side. So I grabbed the flashlight and I'm looking out there. He has the light on, and right directly across from me on my side of the vehicle. And we always have our vehicle pointed out. All right. We come in, we turn it around so it's pointing out. So if we need to make a good fast getaway,
smart,
we're ready to go on this crappy road out. I look and there's 2 trees 30 feet from where we are parked on my side on the vehicle. And I look out there, I put the beam out there, and there's something behind the tree. I can see one eye shine, one eye. So I see the eye shine, and it's an amber color. The eye was pretty good size, and it stopped running. And this thing had intent, let me tell you. And I forgot, what do we call this thing, Bob? That's the creeper. I think that's what we called it. The creeper. Because this thing was creeping up on us. It was subtly making these, obviously, it was walking toward us, but it was sneaking up on us. And then all of a sudden it just started running, toward us at whenever it decided to start running toward us. And then when we lit up and I took the flashlight out, it stopped right by those trees. We wondered what would have happened if we hadn't turned the lights on, if we hadn't taken the flashlight out. Would this thing have, been on us?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what its intent was, but I don't think it was good. But it stopped and I could see it. I could see behind, again, there was a space. I think it was a group of 3 trees, or one that was split. You know what I'm saying? There were 2 smaller ones on one side and then 1 tree on the other side. And I could see it was in between the 2 and the 1. And so I could see one eye looking behind the tree. And it was only 30 feet from us. And I was like, I see eye shine, Bob. What do we do? I don't know. He goes, should we go? No, I didn't want to go, but he's like, I think we should go. And so we ended up leaving. I didn't want to go. What? Some of the time we'll bring little glow sticks for curiosity kind of lures.
Yep.
And I think we had put a glow stick on his side and we put one on my side, was on that crappy dirt, whatever road that we used to get in there. And so when that happened and he said, we're out of here, we ended up leaving. And while we were driving out, I still had the beam on that area and I could still see the eye shine. We left and I'm like, oh my gosh, Bob, we got to go back. He said, no, we're not going back. I said, it's only 2:00 in the morning. We have the whole rest of the night to.
Only 2:00.
It's only 2:00. I mean, we have until dawn. I'm like, come on. He's no, I'm not going back.
Wow.
I'm like, why? I said, I can't believe we're leaving this early. So I said, how about this? How about we go back? And because he's out of there. He's like, I'm out. So I said, why don't we go back and see if the glow stick is still there? He's no, we're not going back. So we get to the end of the road where we get to the paved road. And I said, okay, how about if we go to the right instead of to our left is heading home, to the right. I said, why don't we go to the right and see if we can skirt the area and see if anything comes out? He's no, we're not going. we're leaving. And he said, if you want to come back on your own, you can drop me and Jenna off and just let me know what you want in your obituary.
So you went back, right?
I was like,
Norma went back by herself.
I did. I so wanted to go back, but I didn't end up going back.
Yeah. Right.
And I was like, well, that's real nice, Bob. That's real nice. Yeah. He said, just let me know what you want in your obituary.
Sure.
Yeah. Good. That's good. Nice.
Do you think that was the closest you ever got to a Bigfoot?
Other than that Louisville hitting the tree.
Oh, sure.
That was probably the most unnerving, because after that happened, when we went back the first time after that happened, we were on high alert.
Oh, yeah.
We were on big time high alert. And this could have been just a rogue. I don't know, because none of the other incidences ever was threatening. You know what I mean? I think that and this is like a few years ago, we never really had, other than that Louisville that hit the tree, we never really had anything really threaten us. We've had rocks thrown, pebbles during the night. We had one night that we went there and it was hysterical. I think that it was a juvenile because it hung around us all night and would throw little pebbles at our vehicle. And toward the end of the night, I think I said to Bob, it must be like, all right, I don't know. I've had enough of this. It sounded like it was picking up leaves and sticks and stuff from the ground and just chucking them out toward us. And I said, oh man, this is really funny. And it was starting to get a little bit lighter. Dawn was breaking, but that's usually when we leave. And it was just funny. And I said, all right, I think this thing has had enough. So we went back the next night with my cousin, who we had taken. I think he was at the first time we took him out, he was like 13. And he's been doing this with us off and on for quite a few years. So at this point, when we went out, he was probably 20 or 19 or 20. And we went back we told him what happened, and we went back the next day and the next night. And sure enough, that thing was back again. So what happened when we first got there, we got set up, and this is like a hot spot, this one spot that we go to. We get there, we turn, the vehicle around, we get all the H2s together and everything. All of a sudden, and we're listening out there, and we could, we hear the normal stuff and little twigs and things like that. All of a sudden, on my side of the vehicle, a rock hits the vehicle, hits the door.
Oh.
Straight on. So we thought this thing was directly thrown and hit the side of the door. When we listened back on the H2, what actually happened was it was thrown, ricocheted off that crappy road and popped up and hit our door. That is what actually happened. When we heard it, it sounded like a direct hit, like it was thrown directly at the vehicle. And then again, when we listened back to it, it ricocheted off the ground and popped up on our door. And I said, so we're like, holy cow, here we go. And from that moment on, the rest of the night, it never did it again. It just was throwing little pebbles, and it would, ping off the hubcap or pick the side of the tire or something, or it would land just before us. But I'm sure that it was the same creature. It did exactly what it did the night before. And what was weird was, and I think I said to Bob, I think that was an oops. I didn't mean to throw it that hard. So I think, I'm sure these things are more intelligent than we think. But at any rate, I don't think it meant to do that. But because after that, it was just throwing these little pebbles. Then something even more strange happened. Now, we were only there that night, that second night. We were only there for about an hour tops. And what ended up happening was we heard this thing on my side of the vehicle. And I forget what it was doing, but I got the light out and started to look outside my side of the vehicle. And I'm scanning from left to right, okay? I can only go so far until I can't see past the end of the van. But I'm out there, I'm looking, and as I'm scanning from left to right, I can hear this thing running or moving, walking very fast away from the light. It was moving away so it would stay out of the beam, and I could hear it, and I went as far back as I could to the back of the van. And on the driver's side of the van, there's this fire access. I think it might be a fire access road, but it opens up into this like dirt opening, like an opening. It's not grass. It's just dirt, trees all the way around it. We've been out there several times too, but it went in that direction. The driver's kind of diagonal from the driver's rear quarter panel, if you know what I'm talking about.
Uh-huh.
And it just stopped. I shut the light off, and we were going to see what it was going to do. But I'm sure it was getting away from the light. So it went across, and it went right in the back of a little ways in the back of the van. And so we shut off the light, waited. We got a few pebbles thrown. Then all of a sudden, we hear this metal drop. It sounded like if you were to waist high, if you were to take something that was metal and drop it on a rock, it makes that ping, kind of that metal sound. And we're like, what the heck is it doing? What is that? So then we got a little concerned because we didn't want it. Okay, you got to remember that we thought we got directly hit. It was a direct hit. No hesitation. That rock was thrown at the van. So we're like, okay, what does this thing have? Is it going to throw that at the van too? I'm thinking this thing is going to throw it at the van, break our window or something.
Right.
Who knows? So we heard that and we're like, holy, and again, this is on the H2. It's all recorded. And it was weird that it had something metal, but it makes sense at the same time. If this is a juvenile, it's picking things up, what is this? What is,
Mm-hmm.
And so it dropped on, and obviously dropped on a rock because it made that kind of metal hitting rock sound. So we're like, uh-oh, I think it's time to go, because we don't want this thing chucking a piece of metal at our vehicle. And we ended up leaving. But the next day, Bob and I went back, and we wanted to see if we could find anything that would resemble or make that sound. So we went back and we looked around, and sure enough, we found this broken gusset plate.
Wow.
In the area that we heard it drop. So I obviously didn't pick it back up. It just dropped it. And we looked out in the woods in that area to see if there was anything else out there that it could have been. But it was right in the exact spot that we heard it drop. So we took it with us. And we're pretty sure that's what it was that it had dropped on the rock. So we weren't going to stay around and have this thing chuck whatever metal piece that we didn't know at the time at our van. So that was pretty interesting. And we've had, so many things happen there. We've pulled into that area where we will pull in and start to back up. We'll pull in that kind of little fire road, and then back the van up and head it back out. When one night as we were pulling in, I saw Bob's pulling in. He's not paying attention to the front, what's out there. I'm watching out front, and I could see this eye shine out there that was looking straight at the car and then bolted. And it was up. It wasn't low. It wasn't an animal. It was human height.
Okay.
And it looked at the vehicle and then turned and bolted. You could see the eyes, and then you could see him turn. The eyes just gone. Mm. It was gone. I said, "Did you see that?" He's, "No, what did you see?" I said, "Oh my gosh, it was just right there." So that was pretty cool too. And then we went, I think that was during the pandemic. When the pandemic happened, I had broken my leg on March 15th. I remember that because I was teaching at the time, and I had a break after that. Not a break. Yes, I broke my leg, but I had a span of time between my next teaching. And so and then it was a week later, I think it was about a week later, when the whole country shut down, and my husband was furloughed. So he was furloughed, or he was told not to come back. It was the end of that week. It was that Friday. He was told not to come back because somebody at his work had COVID, and they were in the hospital not doing well. So they had to clean the whole place that he worked at. So they said, "You can't come in until Sunday night." And then the country basically shut down. They said everybody's going to go on furlough.
Right.
So I couldn't do anything. He was furloughed. I think I took another week to recover, and then we were out there in this same research area doing a lot of research. Nobody was out. There weren't planes, there weren't cars, there was nothing out there. It was so nice and quiet. It was great. During that time, we noticed, and remember, we have been there at this point 15 years.
Right.
15 years. Yeah, I think we're going on 17 years of research. So it was about 15 years, and we know the area. We know if these creatures, these Bigfoot, they know our vehicle. Anytime that we took anybody out with us, that like we did during the pandemic, they were in a different vehicle. We didn't stay in the same vehicle. Bob and I would be in one, they would be in their vehicle, and we would have walkies to communicate back and forth. They would have an H2 so they can hear everything. We gave everybody their own H2, and we would listen. We also bought amplifiers for the H2s, as if we didn't hear enough as it was. Now we're really amplified, and we can hear everything. I can hear Bob's stomach growling. So that's how sensitive they are. We're out there, and anytime we brought anybody in a different car, their car would get pinged with pebbles. during the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
They would just throw these anytime anybody, it didn't matter who it was, didn't matter if Fred came out with us, the guy that I was talking about before.
Yeah.
There was another guy that came out with us in their own car. They were getting pinged. We didn't get the little pebbles thrown at us. They were getting pebbles thrown at them. So they know our vehicle. It's the norm for them, for us to come out. They see us all the time. We bring the same vehicle. They hear our voices. They know who I think anyway. I think they know who we are. So anything that's different, they're going to be, what's this all about? And sometimes they don't get going for a little while before that happens. But at any rate, during the pandemic, Bob and I noticed that there was a little more activity around us, and it didn't appear to be more than one. It seemed like it was like a century. So we're like, wow, this is so weird, because this usually doesn't happen. Remember I said we go out there and sometimes a lot of times there's nothing going on. Sometimes it is so quiet that it's deafening. And I'd be like, Bob, talk. Because this is like,
right.
It's too quiet. We can't see anything. It's so black. We can't hear anything. It's almost like, what? I got to say something. I mean, there's many times when there's nothing going on. But during the pandemic, we noticed that and I call it a century, because it's around all the time. It's almost, we didn't know at the time why this was happening, but it would throw things at us, and it would walk around, and little pebbles, nothing major, and it would walk around. We could hear it, and sometimes it would get close. Sometimes we could hear, as it got close, we could actually hear the footfalls. We could hear it step. One time, again, this happened several times. One time really stands out. It stepped, we could hear it step, and then half step. It was so cool, and it was very close to us, almost in that area where, the Louisville hit the tree.
Right.
So it was in that area, and it would get close. And we would just sit there wondering, okay, how close is this going to get? One of these times we're going to put on that light, and this thing's going to be standing in front of us or on either side of us. So it was getting close to us. So we were hearing this a lot when we went out there during the 2020, and nothing was going on. Like I said, you couldn't go in the state forest. People couldn't camp in this rustic area because they shut everything down. So there was no activity. There was nobody bothering them. And as it was, this area is very remote anyway. So there's not a whole lot going on, in there, other than some people maybe going in there and doing a little bit of hiking or, something like that, but nothing major. As the time went on, we also noticed that it sounded like there was more than one. It wasn't just a century anymore, but there was always one of them really close to us. So it was like the century was still there, but there was activity going on a little bit further away from us. And I'm talking maybe, again, not like extremely further away from us. I'm talking like 20, 30 yards around us in that kind of circumference. We noticed that kind of thing happening in that baby Bigfoot. Did I mention the baby Bigfoot yet?
So this is different than the juvenile then?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. You haven't talked about the baby Bigfoot yet.
The baby Bigfoot, at least we thought it was baby Bigfoot, or a very young juvenile Bigfoot. We went there again, same exact location, did the same routine, and as soon as we got there, we could hear something moving around. And I said to Bob, I think there's more than one. I can hear things in different locations. You can hear it. You know how that goes. You hear something to your right, you hear something to your left, off to the diagonal, maybe directly across from you. You can hear different things. And I said, it sounds like there's more than one out there. So we're listening to all of that. it would get close, and it would get farther away. And when it got close, I told Bob, light us up. And this happened several times. It would get really close to us. And I said, but it sounded like it was close to us. Anyway, I think it was staying within a distance where it couldn't be seen. And I don't know about you, and how you feel about this, but there are some people who think that they don't get on all fours. There are other people who've seen them on all fours running. There are other people who've seen them do the spider crawl.
There we go.
I think if I saw that, I would not come back into the woods.
Yeah, me too.
It would be, that is creepy. Yeah. That is, I don't know. I'm like hardcore Bigfoot, but dang.
That's like an Oklahoma, Texas thing a lot of times. I hear those out there.
I don't know. I don't know if I could go back out if I saw that. That is just too much. I think that's too much for my brain. I don't think I could. I'd have nightmares. And I go out there all the time. And we go out in the woods, no protection. And I've said this to Bob before. What do we do? And I had a talk one time at one of the libraries. I said, somebody asked me a question referring to something like that. Mm-hmm. I said, you know what? There's nothing you can do. You just curl up into a little ball and kiss your butt goodbye, because there's nothing you can do if they decide to go after you. Nothing. You have no defense. So unless you have an elephant gun or something, I don't know.
Sure.
But there's nothing that you can do. And let me tell you, it gets a little creepy out there. And I don't think I could, if I saw a spider crawl, I don't know.
It'd be terrible, but it'd be cool, but it would also give you nightmares for.
Yeah, no, but at any rate, we're hearing this, and I scanned the area. I said, Bob, light us up. It starts to get close. Light us up, because I want to see it. If it's going to get close, I want to see it, or that close anyway. When we first got there, I scanned from left to right the area. I gave him the flashlight. He scans around his area. So while I was scanning left to right, again, this is almost the same distance as the bluff charge. It was about 30 feet away from our car. The only difference was it was 30 feet from the passenger's side rear quarter panel. So that's where the diagonal area was. But it was, again, very close to us. So there were 2 trees there and a rock in the middle of the 2 trees. The rock probably was about maybe I want to say 3 feet high, possibly a little bit higher than that. But it was in between, like I said, the 2 trees. And so I'm scanning left to right when we first get there, and I see a little reflection, almost like an eye shine. And it was a reflection, and it had rained earlier that day. So it could have been water, I thought. And I didn't tell Bob at that time. I said, it could be maybe water on a leaf or something like that that's reflecting. So I didn't think too much of it at the time. And then I scanned back to left, and then I shut the flashlight off, and we just listened. And like I said, I could hear a couple things in different directions. So we're just listening. It got a little close, and I said, okay, light us up. Took the flashlight back up, started scanning again. Scanned over to that same tree and rock area, and I didn't see that reflection anymore. I was like, okay, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was a little animal and was there, and then it just left. Maybe it was, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't there. So then again, shut everything off, and we're listening again, and we still can hear this every little bit of span of time. We could hear something moving around, and then it would get close again, and I'd do the same thing. It was like every, 10, 15 minutes. I'm like, okay, it's light us up. This thing is getting close again. So I took the flashlight out again, and I scanned, and off in the distance, further away, it was probably about maybe 15, 20 yards from our vehicle, in the woods, I saw some kind of eye shine out there. And I was like, now there's no reflectors, okay? There's nothing on the trees out there. We've been there a million times. There's nothing on the trees, no reflectors or anything. I know that what I'm seeing is something new. It's not, I've never seen before. And I'm always looking in that direction. So I see something in between the leaves on the trees. And I'm like, I wonder what that is. Could be an animal, maybe up in the tree. I don't know. Didn't really give it a whole lot of thought. You always have that kind of wonder, but I dismissed it and then shut the lights off again. And I did go back to, I think I went back to the tree again, the rock tree, as I'm scanning left to right, and I didn't see anything. So shut the lights off again and again. And this happened like several times within the space of an hour, maybe a little more than an hour. And again, something's getting close. Turn on the lights. And it was less of a time frame. So start to scan back left to right, and I go back to that tree again. And wouldn't you know it, that eye shine is there again. That reflection or reflective, whatever it is, was there again. And I said, And I said, Bob, there's, when we first got, that's when I explained to him. I said, when we first got here, I saw some kind of a reflection, something that was reflective over by those trees and that rock. And then it was gone. So I didn't think anything of it. I said, now it's back and it's in the same exact spot. He goes, what do you see? I said, I don't know what I see. I don't know. It's something. He goes, well, what is it doing? I said, it's just staring at the light. I could just see one eye over this, between those two trees, favoring, if I was to look at it, it was favoring the right side of those two trees. So the right tree. And in between, like I said, was that rock. So it's the eye shine is coming out by the right tree. And I'm like, what the heck is that? It's in the same exact spot. What are the odds of that happening? If it was an animal, it would have been gone long, 45 minutes ago. I didn't see it. I saw it the first time. Then it was gone. Then now I'm seeing it again. And it's in the exact same spot. And Bob's trying to look. Again, he's in the driver's seat. It's on my side. Like I said, the rear quarter panel, diagonal to that. He can't see it because that whole side of the van is, blocking him from seeing it. So so I'm giving him a play-by-play pretty much. And he's like, what is it doing? I said, it's just staring at the light. Now I had this beam on this for almost 5 minutes. Okay. So we're at the beginning of this 5 minutes when I saw it again. This high-powered beam is just reflecting or just pointing to that area. And I'm looking, what is that? All of a sudden goes behind the tree, slowly goes behind the tree. And the color of the eye shine, and it was round, but it was smaller. It wasn't adult size. It was smaller. And it had that amber color, but it was a little bit lighter. It wasn't as dark as I saw the bluff charge one. It was a little bit lighter and it was smaller. And so probably the size, if I were to gauge it with a coin, maybe a little like a quarter size, maybe. And so I'm watching it and it goes behind the tree, slowly goes behind that right tree. I'm like, oh my gosh, it just disappeared. He goes, what do you mean? I said, it's gone. It just went behind the tree. He's okay. And then it comes back. I said, it's there again. It's there because it comes back out again. One eye. It's like it's peeking on the other side of that tree. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's back. It's there again. What is it doing? I said, it's just staring. It's just like staring at us, staring at the beam. Probably like it's curiosity probably got the best of it. It's just watching. Goes back again. I'm like, now it's gone. I'm like, what are you, commentator over here? Watch this. Here it is. Now it's gone. Here it is. I'm back and forth. And then it comes out and there are two eyes this time.
Oh.
And it's just staring at us, staring at the beam. I'm sure it can't see me with this beam in its face. explain its eyes. Maybe it could. I don't know. But it definitely knows that we're there. It can hear us. That's pretty obvious. And I'm practically hanging out the window watching this thing, fascinated by it. Wouldn't you know? Okay, I think this was the second time we had brought the night vision binoculars out with us. It was sitting right next to me, and I did not get it.
Oh,
because
man.
This is like a rookie mistake, right? I'm like, hey, what was I thinking? But again, in my defense, it was the second time we only had it out. So I wasn't used to it yet.
Right.
I wasn't used to having it. But this was more, I was like, I didn't want to take my eyes off this thing, for one thing. And I was fascinated by it. And I'm like, I wonder if this is a juvenile. It's small. It wasn't, when it was coming, it was just over that boulder, or that little rock that was there between the two trees. So it wasn't very high. I don't know how tall it was. Maybe it was sitting down. I don't know. But I'm like, oh my gosh, and then it goes behind the tree again. I'm like, what the heck? And so during this time, so we're heading now to the almost 5-minute mark with this beam of light on this thing that whole entire time. I didn't shut the light off. I didn't move it. It was right there. This thing coming back and forth behind the tree and stuff. And we didn't know this until after we listened to the H2 when we got home, that there was a pretty good size branch was broken.
Oh, wow.
While we were watching this thing. Neither one of us heard it because we were so fixated and mesmerized by what was going on that we weren't listening. We didn't hear any of that. We didn't hear that branch break. Then it was probably a few minutes from that branch break, according to the recording, that there was a significant branch that was broken. This thing sounded like a little tree. And we heard that. That we definitely heard. And Bob's, what the heck? He said, I don't know. So we're thinking that maybe this juvenile was placed there to stay there while the parents were foraging, whatever they do. Because again, we heard two different areas where things were happening. And were the parents there? Was that situation where this juvenile was there? Because I think I told you this before, deer will do that, right?
Exactly.
They'll take their baby, their fawn, and they'll put it in a place where it's secure and covered and camouflaged, and it stays there. It doesn't move, and the mother will go out foraging, and the little fawn will stay there until the mother comes back, unless it's in this dire situation where it's going to be attacked or something. Then I'm sure it would get up. It probably wouldn't live anyway, but it doesn't move. You could walk by it and it wouldn't move. And that's what happened. That's what the deer do. Do the Bigfoot do that? Do they say, okay, Junior, you stay right here. Don't move. Don't do anything. We'll be back. I'm paraphrasing, but it didn't move. It stayed right there. And when that big branch broke, man, we were like, Bob's okay. They are not happy with this light on their juvenile. I think we better go. So of course I didn't want to leave, but I didn't want them to get upset either. If this is their baby, I don't want to stress them out. So he ended up starting the car, and as we were leaving, I'm still watching. I'm out the window. Beam is still on this thing. And as we're leaving, it comes out again full, and I think it stood up. It wasn't that tall, but it was higher than it was before. And I could see the two little eyes, watching us as we left.
Wow.
So that was very cool. If that was the scenario, I can't imagine what else it would have been. If anybody else comes up with something different, I'd love to hear that explanation. But
that's absolutely wild. The stuff you have going on in that research area is just incredible, Norma. And thank you for sharing what has happened to you guys so far in that area.
This has been, it's been an ongoing. And then when we moved to Connecticut, we still go back there, but we're in a different area now. And we didn't know anything about this area, but we got permission to go on to private land that also has a protected section of the woods that you can't hunt on or anything like that. Miles and miles and acres of just forest. And we've had some pretty incredible things happen there as well. And I went into it very doubtful. I didn't know only because the owner told us some quirky things that were going on there. And when we told him that we were Bigfoot researchers, and would you mind if we came out here? He said, yeah, I don't care, but you're crazy. We're like, yeah, tell us something we don't know. But we've had some incredible things happen here. Now, this is a place where nobody goes to do this kind of research. This is all private. It's private. His land is all private. There are people that go out into, like on four-wheelers and things like that. But his area, like I said, was private, but you have to access that road if you want to take four-wheelers out. And we've done that. Bob and I have gone out there. We've also gone out there and walked. Why? I don't know. But especially after what happened to us. Do you remember that movie? It's a classic, Princess Bride.
Yeah, that's a classic 80s movie. Totally. Yeah, definitely.
Andre the Giant was in that movie, right?
Oh yeah.
Andre the Giant.
Fezzik.
Yes. And you have the Dread Pirate Roberts, and you have classic. the Spanish guy and whatever. Yeah. You got to look this up too. And maybe some of your listeners you can look it up, specifically this one part where Andre the Giant is off. He's off screen, so you can't see him. The pirate guy is running toward this huge boulder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Just him, and he's running toward this huge boulder. And you're just kind of sitting there watching it. All of a sudden, Andre the Giant, well, it's supposed to be him anyway, Fezzik. He throws that big rock and hits that boulder. Scares the heck out of you because you're not expecting it when you're watching the movie, especially the first time.
Right.
But he throws that rock and it hits that boulder and splinters, right? It just breaks into a million pieces and just misses that pirate guy's head. We were out there one night. A friend of ours from New York had come down, and she's also into Bigfoot. And we were telling her some of the stuff that was going on here in Connecticut. And she came out with us one night. We're sitting there, and we kind of heard, a few things here and there, but nothing really major. Started off like it was going to be a good night. And then, because we had been there prior to that and had crazy stuff happen. But this particular night when she was with us, what we usually do when we go to this guy's property is there's a lot of rocks here. I don't know. There's just tons and tons of rocks and boulders and things that are in the ground. There's tons of rocks here.
Okay.
So up in his area, because there's so many rocks, he borders part of that road. You go to this road at dead ends, and then if you go to the right, you go follow that road, and it goes to his house. So we're far enough away from the house where you're accessing that road to go four-wheeling. But we go in there, we back up to this boulder that's there. That's about, I'm 5'5.5", so it's probably about up to my collarbone, up just below my neck. And it's probably about 4 feet wide. It's a pretty good sized boulder. So what we usually do is we'll back up just in front of that boulder. And again, we're heading out. So we're there one night, this particular night. It starts off really good, and then it kind of peters. There's nothing going on. And we're just kind of talking, and we're listening. And Bob says, okay, how long do you guys want to stay out? It's about 3:30 when he says this. And we're like,
Bob is, I get Bob. Bob is, it's 3:30 a.m., Norma.
Oh, come on. He knows we're staying out until dawn.
He knows.
But if there's nothing going on and it's still the same with me, it's, but there could be.
Right.
5 more minutes and something could happen. I don't want to leave until dawn. So at any rate, he's saying that to us. How long? Nothing's going on. How long you guys want to stay? So we said, we'll give it another half an hour. We'll leave at 4. He's like, all right. So we're, again, just listening to things and we were talking. Just no kidding. It was probably 5 minutes to 4. And this rock comes out of nowhere and hits that boulder. And it sounded exactly like that scene in Princess Bride.
Really?
It was so loud. And you could even hear pieces of whatever was thrown hit the ground. And this is a dirt, rocky road. It's just to get up to where his house is. We don't know how he even survived the cars or whatever he's driving survives that. I don't even know how my van survives it. But at any rate, it's just rock and dirt. So you can hear the pieces falling on the ground. And we're like, that was it. It was ridiculous, the power behind that. And this is no pebble that it threw against that boulder. It had to have been a good size rock. It was crazy. So of course we're not leaving. Now we're not leaving. We're waiting to see what else is going to happen. And that boulder was right behind our vehicle. So it very easily could have hit us.
Wow, yeah.
It would have shattered that back window for sure.
Oh, yeah.
So it meant to hit that boulder because, like I said, it would have hit us if it wanted to. That was incredibly loud. And prior to that, we've had that cousin I was talking to you about. He had come down to go out with us because we were telling him the stuff that was going on. It sounded like a tree branch went across the top of his car. We've had weird things thrown at us that this is not pebbles like the other place. On occasion, at the other place in Mass, we would get a bigger rock thrown, and you can tell the size of a rock when it hits the ground that it's not a pebble. It just, that it's a little bit bigger than that. But at this place, they're not throwing little pebbles. They're throwing like baseball, softball sized rocks toward us that are hitting the ground. And again, they're not hitting us, but they're certainly coming close. And I said to Bob, man, this is some serious business here.
Right.
Because they don't know us. And that's a little unnerving because it's not like the other place. They know us. They know our vehicle. They know we're not going to bother them or hurt them or do anything. These guys don't know that. And they're all out. They're throwing, I don't even know what, but I don't know how it missed us. And we went, and this was happening the whole night. We're hearing it. I can't remember. I think, it's off in the distance. We could hear prior to this when my other friend was with us, we could hear vocalizations off. It was like, I don't even know. It was almost like, I don't know what to listen to because we can hear it over here. We can hear it over there. Something's walking over here. It was crazy. That was the first night we went out. The second night, it was when that boulder got hit. But when we were out with our cousin, same thing. We're like, what the heck is going on? These things aren't nice. They mean business. I don't know what they're going to do to us, but they mean business.
Were you hearing whoops, or what kind of vocalizations were you hearing?
There were, again, similar to the Ohio, except a little higher pitched and longer. It was like, it wasn't so mournful. Do you know what I mean? The Ohio it sounds a little more mournful. It's not like that, but it's similar. It's hard to describe.
Interesting.
And then sometimes just yell, just a vocalization, just yell or something. I don't know what the heck they're doing out there, but we can hear, what they're doing. And once again, it's all in the H2, man. You listen to this stuff back and you're like, holy cow. And there are some things that you don't hear. There was one night, the night that we got the bluff charge, that tree was pushed over off in the distance. And then we had the bluff charge. In between, when we were listening to the H2, listening to the back, there was this growl that I don't even know how to explain it. Bob, he has sonic hearing. Okay. I turned the TV up one little click and he's, you're turning the TV up. He's sleeping. He's got sonic hearing and he didn't even hear it. I don't know what the deal was, but when we were listening to that recording, in between when the tree went down and the bluff charge, there was this growl that was really close to us. We heard that on the H2 when we were listening to it. And we're like, what was that?
Wow.
We rewound it. We listened to it again. We backed it up again and listened to it again. We're like, we didn't even hear that. We should have heard that. There was nothing going on so that we couldn't hear it or we weren't talking or anything like that, because once that tree went down, we were on high alert. We were not doing anything. We should have heard that. And I don't know why we didn't. I don't know if it was infrasound. I don't know. I can't even explain it.
That's really
why
weird.
We didn't hear it. Yeah. These noises now coming here again, these noises that we're hearing, we've heard similar, but we've also heard these different noises. And then you can hear them walking or going through the woods. There was one night that we heard, I think there was only one there. This is in Connecticut, in that same location. It sounded like there was just one kind of hanging around, not really doing a whole lot. We get a little rock thrown every now and again. Then a little later on, we heard another one coming toward us. We heard another one walking through the woods coming to that area. We're like, uh-oh, now it's going to begin. Now the party's going to start. This other one's coming in. I don't know. We don't know what to expect in this area. It's very, I don't know. What did you say? Yeah, the owner told us Bob had gone there and talked to him. I don't know. It was something totally different. But he told Bob that a few times on his front door, he would get these slaps, like 5 quick succession slaps on his door.
Oh, really?
And it happened. Yeah. And it happened. And now he's got these huge dogs. These dogs, what are they? Oh, I forget the breed, but they're huge and they're really furry. They're not St. Bernards, Pyrenees or something.
Okay. Yep.
Huge dogs. They're very friendly, but they stay outside and they're on his porch. These dogs they were in the far end of the porch, kind of huddled there, and they didn't do anything. They didn't bark, nothing. And so this happened several times, and it happened, the last time it happened, when, I don't know if it's the last time, but when Bob talked to him, he said it happened again, and he said, okay, first he thought somebody was messing with him. Then because he would go to the door and he couldn't he couldn't see anything. And this was early in the morning. When he was talking to Bob, he said, when it happened this last time, he said he got up and went to the door, and again, nothing. He couldn't find anything. He couldn't see anything. So he has heard things, he doesn't know what it is. And I'm sure he hears all kinds of things out there. He's on a lake with acres and acres of forest. It borders Rhode Island. So it's, again, acres and acres on that side, acres and acres on the side of Connecticut, just nothing out there. Nothing. Bob and I, like I said, we took our 4-wheel drive truck out there as far as we could go because the road is really bad. And then we walked another mile into there, and there's nothing out there. Talk about being vulnerable. We know what's out here, and we aren't going out here with nothing but harsh language because there's nothing that's going to protect us if anything were to come out. So there's nothing out there. So what could this be? And again, with us going out there, we have no clue what these things are capable of or how they're going to react each time that we go there, especially since we've had so many things thrown at us that aren't little, near misses kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know what to expect. We've been doing this probably a year now. So it's going to be interesting to go out. We haven't been able to go out as much as we've wanted to because the weather has been horrible. We can't take the H2s out in the rain. We can't take them out if it's windy because you're going to hear wind. You want to be able to hear everything
right
that's around you. You don't want to be surprised. So we can't go out and not be able to hear. And yes, the H2 will pick up things that in between the sounds, but not enough. You got that wind blowing on that microphone. It's hard to hear. If it's rained and you go out after the rain, you're hearing those raindrops are falling off the tree. The wind blows a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be surprised. We want to be able to hear everything. Not to mention you don't want your equipment out in rain. So we've gone out a couple times this winter, but again, you can't, it's so weather dependent unless even with your naked ear going out there, if you have tree branches knocking against each other, squeaking against each other, you can't hear what's around you. You just don't want to be surprised. And not just Bigfoot. You're talking any other bear or any other animal that's out there. You don't want to come into contact with unaware or by surprise. So it's been pretty interesting. So tomorrow night, we're going out to the Mass location.
Oh, wow. That's right. You had told me that before. Oh, yeah. Man. Wild.
So it's supposed to be a good night. We've been planning this for probably a month, and we have to keep, not tomorrow night. I'm sorry, Friday night. Right. We're going out. We had to keep canceling because somebody else is coming out with us, and he's never been out before.
Oh, wow.
And you can't go out if it's raining. You can't go out, all those things the weather related stuff. So we've had to cancel. Friday's supposed to be good. So we're going out for sure. And we haven't been there in a while. So I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
It'll be
nobody else goes out there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to hear what happens. You definitely let me know if anything cool happens when you go out Friday night. But
I will.
Norma,
I definitely will.
This has been just a fantastic chat about Worcester County and Massachusetts and somewhere on the east border of Connecticut. You guys are doing some cool stuff. And thank you for sharing what you've experienced over the years, you and Bob.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us on. It's been really fun. I can talk about Bigfoot for hours.
Before you go, is there any way that people can keep up to date with what you're doing with Bigfoot, or are you and Bob just in the shadows doing your thing? If someone pulls you into a podcast, then that's how we get to hear about it.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah. We're I don't know. We don't advertise. We don't do YouTube. We just keep to ourselves. But I do have an email if they do want to get in touch with me.
Okay.
Anybody wants to ask a question, or I'm not going to give out the locations simply because the way that we feel about it is not everybody's going to be careful, I guess maybe is the word. I don't want anything to happen to them. I don't want the area to get saturated so that they lose their, the place that they live. Because this area, and I'm assuming that the Connecticut area is the same, but I know that Mass area, we have activity all year round. It's probably their base home area, and I don't want them to be pushed out. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We take people there that we trust to not have it. It's almost like you don't want anybody going there and ruining it for them or the Bigfoot that are there. This new group that moved in, again, the last time we were there, they were still there. We haven't been there in a while, so I'm curious to see if they are still there. but I certainly don't want to push them out, and I don't want them to be pushed out from that area. They're happy there. I don't want anything to happen to them. That's one of the reasons why we don't advertise, or everybody, you can incognito or thereabouts or whatever, it's in this area. But I don't know. It's just we're very protective of them, and we don't want anything to happen to them. Now the Connecticut ones, that's a whole different
well, they're kind of different. They're different down there. So, yeah.
It's no hold bar there. I don't know.
It'll be interesting.
With them, we don't know what to expect.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but if we're planning on, again, picking up as soon as we can get out there, and if anything happens, I will let you know. My email, we're also a metal detectorists, so we've been doing that for 30 some odd years. The email is coinhunters2@yahoo.com. So 2 is spelled out TWO.
Perfect. And I'll have that in the show notes as well, definitely. But
yeah, they can contact me at any time. I'm not, you know how that goes. I don't check my email very often. I'll check it, but we've gone back and forth with the whole email thing. But I will respond if they do send me an email.
Perfect. And real quick before we go, me talking to the listener specifically, for all you New England people that are listening to this episode, if you have Bigfoot things that have happened to you in Massachusetts, specifically Western Mass or Southern New Hampshire or Connecticut, you guys don't talk a lot. So I would love to talk to you about it. Please contact me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or share it in the comments. Norma, it's been a great time chatting with you.
Can I just interject?
Yes,
Can I just interject one thing? If any, again, along the same lines as what you're saying, if anyone is concerned about an area, or if they want an area of theirs checked out, they can also get a hold of us, and we will do our best to what's going on there, because we've done that before too. And again, they can contact me through the email. Fantastic. We've been doing this a long time, so we're used to it.
There you go.
Maybe too long.
Thank you so much for hanging out tonight, Norma, and say thank you to Bob as well.
Yes, thank you so much too.
Please take a minute to help out the show by subscribing on YouTube, making sure you hit the bell so you don't miss any notifications, and share the episode on YouTube with a friend. Also, if you're listening to us on a podcast, thank you so much. Make sure that you're subscribed. Share the show with a friend. Really, it's all about sharing the show wherever you can. If you've had a Bigfoot encounter related to the following or know someone who has, please reach out to me at bigfootsociety@gmail.com or pass on my email. Here's the list. All right, I'm going to use this space this week to announce that I'll be at the Sasquatch Summerfest in Oak Ridge, Oregon as an attender. I won't be presenting or anything, but I'll be hanging out, trying to interview people that have had Bigfoot encounters. If you're from the Oak Ridge, Oregon area or surrounding and you've had a Bigfoot experience, please contact me directly, bigfootsociety@gmail.com. Also, Priscilla was nice enough that if you get your tickets through SasquatchSummerfest.com and use code BigfootSociety, you can get 50% off the cost of your tickets, which is a big amount. So code Bigfoot Society to get 50% off your tickets, SasquatchSummerfest.com, and helps out the podcast as well. A special thank you to all the Bigfoot Society Patreon and YouTube channel members. It's your support that helps keep the show going, and I extremely appreciate it. Here at Bigfoot Society, we're headed to the moon, and here's a current update about going full-time. So here we go. As of 5/22, you're now at 202 patrons out of 824 needed. That's 24.51%, almost a quarter of the way there, guys. Brings us down to 622 left to join the Patreon. So a huge thank you to Barbara, Gregory, Dana, Craig, Jeff, Steve, Ricky D, Norm, Megan, Dan, Daddy Chatty, Joe, Eber, Ike, Jules, Josh, Ryan, Todd, Nathan, Gabe, Bill, Lucky, Megan, William, Bobby Joe, and Inger for joining recently. If you want to join in the fun, you can join over at patreon.com/The Bigfoot Society. I'll see you there. And again, thanks for listening.
her and I can get on here and we can tell our stories. Maybe there's somebody else out there listening that's too afraid to tell their story. Maybe this will give them the courage to come out and not feel so bad about it. Who cares what anybody thinks? I know what I saw. I know what's out there. That's all I care about.
Please let people know. Please let them know. If you ever see one of these things, you need to tell. Because if you don't, then shame on you. You know? Shame on you.
Wait, there's more. Monster Fest 2 is coming up soon in beautiful Canton, Ohio, and I will be there doing a live podcast. If you've ever wanted to meet Bigfoot Society in person, this is the year to do it. My special guest in the live podcast episode will be Justin from Cryptids of the Corn. You will not want to miss this live episode. And then you can hang out with me at Monster Fest. You can go to smalltownmonsters.com to get your tickets. Pre-sale tickets are $20.50, and tickets at the door will be $25. But kids 12 and under are free. How many places can you go to where kids 12 and under are free? Not many. New this year are the live workshops. I'm excited about this. Extremely excited. How to cast a footprint. How to collect DNA in the woods. Ghost hunting tools 101. How to do research. Also, there's going to be food trucks outside this year, and new guests, new speakers, people you won't. I mean, the coolest thing about last year is that I got to meet people I was not expecting to be there. People like Les Odell, John Hickenbottom, really cool Bigfoot people that I never would have thought that I would have met before, and Seth Breedlove made it happen by making this incredible place for the community to get together. Monster Fest in Canton, Ohio, June 28th through 29th. Guys, do not miss this year. If you missed last year, don't miss this year. Head on over right now to smalltownmonsters.com. I hope to see you there.